Welcome to Clocking In, Voices of NC Manufacturing. I'm your host, Phil Mintz, Director of the North Carolina Manufacturing Extension Partnership, otherwise known as NCMEP. My role is to drive outreach to NC manufacturers, build relationships to federal and state leaders, and coordinate efforts to drive profitable manufacturing growth in North Carolina. Throughout my time working closely with manufacturers, I have heard the most quirky, curious, and memorable stories. I wanted to turn these stories into a podcast so that others may hear and be informed and inspired. From humble beginnings to manufacturing titans, from tragedy to triumph, I will be interviewing some of these manufacturers who have made North Carolina manufacturing the powerhouse that it is today. Alotech Incorporated is a contract manufacturing company located in the town of Goldston, North Carolina, situated in southwest Chatham County. The company has a highly diversified set of services that has expanded beyond an early focus on remanufacturing. It now provides expanded solutions, including product development, machining, engineering, and logistics. With such a unique set of manufacturing capabilities, Alotech is nearly unlimited in opportunities to develop customer relationships. However, innovative approaches are important to business success. In 2019, the company won the NCMEP Manufacturing Leadership Award for innovative practice, citing Alotech's remanufacturing improvements that led to better yields and increased profit margins for customers. Jason Alexander is Alotech's business development manager, who leads the company's quest to match its diverse capabilities to customer solutions. Building on his bachelor's degree in sociology and English from Stetson University, in addition to athletic coaching and management experience, Jason is optimizing his professional journey into a collection of successes and recognition. Of note, Jason has achieved his doctorate in humanitarianism, and in 2022, he received the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for volunteerism. We're fortunate to have a few minutes with Jason today. So how are you doing, Dr. Alexander?
I'm doing very well on my 1-year anniversary as business development manager for Alotech, and how apropos to have the opportunity to speak with you guys on that anniversary.
So, okay, I've been around long enough to see so many different roads that people take that end up in manufacturing. But I have to say, yours is quite unique. How does a college basketball star for the Stetson Hatters find its way to contract manufacturing?
Really, the seed was planted in high school. I went to a private high school in New York City called Archbishop Moore High School. Notably, the governor, tennis greats like Vitas Gerulaitis, or NBA players like Kenny Smith on TNT and Kenny Anderson. At the time, I came from a single parent household, and we had some trouble making the tuition payments. The coach proceeded to get me a summer job, which landed me at Zena Jeans, 39th Street and Broadway, working for the owner, Dick Gilbert, whom he was very good friends with. Zena became Mud Jeans and Paper Denim, but that experience that summer working to pay my tuition gave me insight into being a success. Prior to, the blueprint was earn a basketball scholarship and that'll pay for your education. But during that summer between 10th and 11th grade, I realized that I had other opportunities, and working every day in the showroom, participating in buyer selling negotiations, doing product design, research design, understanding the supply chain. Though that entire experience propelled me into college I went from a singular mindset to a dual mindset, that I could be proficient as a professional athlete, but I could also become an astute, accomplished entrepreneur. So that's when the seed was planted back in high school.
Yeah, clearly you're driven by a passion for anything you do. Where does all of that motivation come from? Have you always been that way?
I would say so. My mom, single mom, was mom and dad, and she ran a very, very tight ship. She challenged my sister and I in all capacities of domestication, education, athletics. The moral was, if you're going to do something like wash dishes, clean the house, you're going to do it to perfection. And she held me accountable. And when you have that kind of foundation and development, it just carries with you in all things you do. And as a little guy in sport, I never passed the eye test. So it breeded and cultivated a lot of determination. And when you combine what you're learning inside the four walls of your home versus what you really love to do, when you put it together, it really created a champion mindset. And I just always wanted to give everything that I could. And if you couldn't really give everything to what you were doing, then that meant you probably should look at what you're doing and maybe get involved in something else that you could give your all to.
So lots of sports, youth development, education, entrepreneurship, all those things. And then boom, manufacturing, working at Alotech.
Yeah, my daughter was born in April 2003. Prior to that, I was doing some stuff in fashion and music. When my daughter was born down in Miami, that meant I had to relocate from New York. I decided to go back to my roots, which was education and sport, and that led me to work for the Boys and Girls Club in the YMCA. But in that process, I was doing that as a means to develop my own business and my own entrepreneurial spirit. And I met a gentleman that my daughter's mom, he was her vendor, and he ran a full service printing manufacturing business. He sponsored a project of mine at the Boys and Girls Club, and something I wanted to do. And I really connected with the gentleman. And I said to him one day, I want to come work for you. I like your style. Italian guy from Massachusetts, former Marine, and was sharp, razor sharp with numbers. And he brought me aboard. He taught me the business. And subsequently, the customer that he really wanted me to attack was Office Depot, a customer that he had gained and lost through 30 years in the business. He wound me up, and turned me into a wooden soldier. And that led me into that procurement department. And I was able to establish rapport with a new procurement leader over there. And then what they did is they consolidated their spend into what they call the market basket. Prior to, every job was procured with at least 3 quotes. They combined the entire process. Our company, Palms Enterprises, won that bid, and that was worth roughly $2.7 million.
Oh, wow.
So that was my first entry into manufacturing, right? Winning the market basket for Office Depot procurement valued at $2.7 million and supplying 1,300 stores nationwide.
Oh, boy. That's great. When I visited Alotech, I saw that your production team can take like complex assemblies apart and put them back together as something new. I don't know that the power of remanufacturing as a sustainability practice is fully understood. Is that something you have to explain about often?
I do. And what I've strategically chosen and how to explain it is to position it under sustainability. If you're in manufacturing, if you're alive, right, being eco-friendly has been more and more of a worldwide agenda as we move into the future. Remanufacturing is a direct product of sustainability. You're right. We take parts, whole parts, into its individual pieces. We remanufacture every piece through a system, through a process that we've kind of cultivated along with the client, and we perfected it. And then the client is able to reorder those individual remanufactured parts, and they reassemble. And I think the most important thing to know is that each remanufactured part, once completed its process, gets labeled on the bill of material as like new or better than new, right? And so that allows a company to impact their bottom line because there's a huge cost savings. And when you really position the vision far out, you think of natural resources being finite. right? There's a point in time in human history where there may be no more cobalt, there may be no more steel, there may be no more copper. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to salvage what's here and what's been used. And so the concept of remanufacturing precious metals, I do think is something that the world needs to adopt. And in many ways, for me as BDM here at Alotech, that's the position that I've tried to take in the marketplace as positioning us as an educating source, as a leader in educating folks on the value of remanufacturing, particularly as it applies to precious metals.
Do people always know that their products can be put in the remanufacturing space, or do sometimes you have to explain it to them?
They really don't process it until the explanation. And I always use a very basic comparison. In the past, we exist in what we would call a linear economy. We source the raw material, the company manufactures it, sells it to the end user uses it and then disposes it, and it goes into a landfill. The new model is a circular economy. Everything remains the same, and right as it gets to the end of the cliff to go into the landfill, it would come back to a company like Alotech, where we could work with that metal and remanufacture it and then reintroduce it back into the supply chain. And that's how you reduce landfills. That's how you leave a positive footprint. You use less carbon dioxide, so on and so forth. So I'm still educating myself on how many different industries the remanufacturing process can be applicable to. The more you know, the more you actually realize you don't know. Mm-hmm. But for steel, we have a process, and the engineering aspect of what we do makes me feel 100% confident that we could take any natural resource, any precious metal from any company and its product and innovate and find a way to remanufacture that precious metal and reintroduce it into the supply chain.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, it also appears that Alotech can help with manufacturing startups, like inventors might need help with establishing their production practices. Is that correct?
Very correct. We have a long history at Alotech, 35 years running, and then maybe about 2015 to 16, Alotech sort of grew up and we purchased CTI, right? Which is the technical, automated, advanced version of Alotech. And so now we exist as brother and sister company as we have the same ownership and leadership group. But yes, we've prototyped several things throughout the company's history. So we can take an idea and literally manufacture it because of our engineering process and our multifaceted complex of machining, designing, and we can do it from start to front or front to back. We can take the blueprint and develop it, or we can reverse engineer and look at the end product, pull it apart, and restructure it. So we have the ability to go both directions in that process. And we have an extremely talented team here that is really well versed in all the four corners of the manufacturing world.
I don't think it's always a straight line to developing those types of partnerships. How do you find and connect with potential companies and customers in this R&D type space?
Well, that's interesting you say that, Dr. Mintz. I attended the NCMEP Federal Technology Symposium this past week at Fayetteville Tech. And there was a gentleman and a group from North Carolina State University that developed an amphibious machine. Wars now, as I understand it, do not want to be fought with human capital. Yeah. They want robotics and automation and drones to be the lead entry onto the battlefield. So this gentleman developed an amphibious machine that's capable of being deployed in the water so it can swim, then it can breach land, and through the design, it's able to move through the sand, and it has a camera. And typically, that project, that responsibility was left to G.I. Joe and his team of humans to have to infiltrate. And we risk human lives. So this invention that he displayed at the technology symposium I thought was fabulous. And I made a point to talk to him and kind of let him know that on our tech side, we have the ability to make custom machines that could provide laser marking, that could allow him to control his printed circuit boards, because these things are wireless. They're being operated from a different location than the machine. So I waited to the end of the show in the parking lot. I managed to catch up to him and his team, draw alliance, draw allegiance, tell him I thought what he had was a great idea. I'm pretty sure DARPA, DOD, DIU, all of these folks are going to want to mass produce this, but I want to get involved at the ground level, create rapport, have him visit our facility, and talk about how we can service him. And to be honest, I really don't know exactly how, but I know that from the basics, he has a machine that has a wireless unit to control it. We make those custom machines. And as I always tell people, while you're inside the box, you always have to think outside the box. So symposiums, workshops, MFG places where people unveil their new inventions are ideal places to make contacts, think outside the box, create relationships, and see if you can cultivate something from the ground up.
So do you see that type of business as kind of an area of growth for Alotech, or I mean, is it just it's pretty steady that
It's
you?
an area of growth. We've gone through the ebbs and flow in 30 years of being in business. And I think with Alotech, they got excited about the acquisition of CTI roughly 10 years ago. And a lot of Alotech's baseline and foundational resources went into the acquisition, including leadership and human capital. And I think at the same time, ownership got a little spoiled in the client that we have on a remanufacturing side, which is Eaton. We're their exclusive supplier for remanufactured cores, and we have been for 20 plus years. We innovated that program with those folks, and it runs itself. They take care of all the logistics. We just have to receive inventory, remanufacture it, and ship it. Of course, we have to be ISO 9001 certified and maintain, make sure our PPA is adequate and that we don't have any DMRs. But ultimately, the ability to process work is really falls on my area, right? And I think the company is rededicating themselves to expanding our capabilities, which would be remanufacturing, industrial metal washing, and subcontracting. So I'm happy to be in that space and take a company that is built on tradition and performance and put that into a new modernized laser beam where you shoot it into the marketplace.
Yeah, so we're speaking with Jason Alexander, who's the business development manager at Alotech in Goldston, North Carolina. Goldston, North Carolina is kind of a rural area, and you talk about some important people that work in your factory, smart people that help get these things done. Well, how do you find them and keep them these days? It's a little challenge, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, it is a shortage of qualified machinists and tech people in this sector. I think somewhere along the line, people became enamored with apps in the highest level of technology. And we've sort of turned our back on manufacturing, probably started in the 60s and 70s when we lost a lot of manufacturing jobs and companies to the international marketplace. So we've been trending in that direction for tens of years. Now we're at a precipice or an intersection where we have the tariffs are great because they're forcing OEMs and tier ones to look inward, not outward, right? We have to look back and say, well, what can my compadres domestically do? And the great state of North Carolina is home to a plethora of manufacturers. And this is the time to cement manufacturing again, right? Let's take it back 100 years and make 2025 the point of origin and really reestablish manufacturing inside the borders of the United States. And Alotech is a company that is a true traditional manufacturer. And, I'm just excited at the opportunity to reestablish who we are in the marketplace based on 30 years of performance.
Yeah. All right. So You talked about a little bit about the CTI systems, and I visited your company, and I know it's like right next door. And
Yes.
how do you guys interact and help each other in the business?
Well, we're true brother and sister. The owners own the land, the building itself, and the businesses under the roof. And technically, by definition, that the parent company is called the Innovate Group. And
Hmm.
under that umbrella, you have CTI Systems, you have Alotech, and we have a third company called Shed Depot. But we function as brothers and sisters. It's interesting because Shed Depot, their material, they work with wood predominantly, right? We work with metal. And then you have CTI working with all components, fiberglass, metal, wood, right? And then you add tech and automation to that process. And so we're very organic, yet very, futuristic in terms of how we all interact. And I think it's a healthy relationship. In 200,000 square feet, when I bring a customer or a client in, everyone gets the comprehensive tour because, again, my philosophy is while you're inside the box, always think outside the box. And you just never know how a company may want to maintain or how they may want to grow. And so that's a way of making sure all three companies under the roof stay connected. Because when we bring in guests, everyone gets the grand tour, everyone gets to meet the production manager from each respective business. And then my job is to kind of take the thread out, the knitting yarn, and I sit with the client and we weave together a plan of action.
All right, Dr. Alexander, it's a 1 year anniversary at Alotech. You
Yes.
still as excited as the first day?
I'm actually more excited today. We had a leadership change 6 months in. I was recruited by the previous CEO, Ryan Gladio. Midstream, he took a job at another CEO position and entered Dylan Kramer, who's long been with the organization as acting CEO. And I sort of had to reposition or rethink how I wanted to execute the comprehensive development plan for Alotech, but not really much different. I'm pleased to be at a year because a lot of the seeds that I've planted and watered and fertilized, I think some are ready to sprout. In manufacturing, I equate this business as watching paint dry, right? It's important
Yeah,
for the market to know that you're here because
right.
relationships are such a big part of the business. Trusting that when I turn over my projects to Phil Mintz or Jason Alexander, that's going to be the person that I'm going to be corresponding with for weekly reports, for problems, shipping. That trust is everything. And so for me, my goal was to just allow the market to get to know me as a person, my history. So I joined three different chamber of commerces, Siler City, Chatham County, as well as Sanford. And that's been important. I've worked closely with the SBTDC, the NCIS, the NCMEP, and now the NCMBC. And all of these acronyms are great because each plays a distinct role in the manufacturing ecosystem. But more importantly, on the other end of their service, they have folks and companies and relationships that they know. And
Yep.
so it's not like 40 years ago where you could walk into GE and say, hey, I want to, speak or see with the lead engineer. Those days are over, right? HR and are kind of railroaded off site. So if you don't have a pre-existing relationship, you're not able to get next to or access the person who you really are targeting. So working through these mid-level organizations, we call them the Alphabet City or the acronym groups, they have the relationships. And so I think I put together a very strategic plan to network through those groups effectively, prove myself, build trust, build rapport, and then allow them to usher me into the space of the end users, which are the OEMs and tier ones, the B2Bs.
Yeah. So obviously it's working pretty well because we see you everywhere.
Well, I was hired for who I am as a person, right? I'm passionate about meeting people, about learning, accessing new opportunities. To me, that keeps life refreshing, keeps it rigorous, and that's important to me to have that interaction with the humans, right? To shake hands and find out, what's your history and what do you do, and it adds a lot of flavor to life. And so I think my personality and who I am is ideal for the position, and I think that's what Ryan Gladio, a former teammate of mine, ironically, 30 years ago, has known me for 30 years. He knew the intangibles that I had, a combination of education, manufacturing experience, and I won't say street savvy because that's a negative conversation, but just I would say interpersonal skills, right? And you have to have thick skin, but everyone tells you no, or they get you to the altar the day before, and I can't make it to the facility, Mr. Alexander. So you just have to have thick skin and be willing to put your interpersonal skills at work on a daily basis. You have to be creative and you have to be determined. And I think all of those attributes make it fun and allow me to get up every day, and I look forward to the job that I have to do.
Yeah, it's great. It's exciting to see. We've been speaking with Jason Alexander, the Business Development Manager of Alotech Incorporated in Goldston, North Carolina. Jason, thanks for spending some time with us this morning. It's been great to hear you talk about your journey and your success.
Dr. Phil Mintz, I appreciate it. I appreciate your whole team. Anna Mangum, I want to make special note, has really been influential in helping me connect the dots. It's been great meeting Dr. Adrian Cole and different folks, Michael Mullen, many folks from your team, and now Lori Brew and Michelle Daniels. So I appreciate everybody over there who helps make the NCIS and NCMEP function on a daily basis. And again, thank you for giving Alotech an opportunity to talk about who we are and what we do.
Great, and we look forward to your continued success.
Thank you, Dr. Mintz. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining today's Clocking In, Voices of NC Manufacturing. This podcast is brought to you by NC State's College of Engineering, the North Carolina Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and Industry Expansion Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about the solutions NCMEP offers, go to www.ncmep.org. Want to listen to previous Clocking In podcasts? Go to ncmep.org/clockingin.